At Christmas dinner, my daughter whispered on the phone in the kitchen, "Yeah, we're still stuck living with Sharon. Can't wait till we get that deed signed. Then it's our house, and she can figure out where to go." I took a sip of wine, walked into the kitchen, and calmly said, "Then I hope you can pay the $7,200 property tax that's due next week." The next morning changed everything. If you're watching this, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because what I'm about to share will show you that sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones planning to take everything you have. Sometimes your generosity becomes an expectation. And sometimes the daughter you raised sees your grief as an opportunity to exploit. This is the story of how my child tried to steal my home and how I chose my dignity over being used. Let me take you back to Christmas Eve, 2024, 3 years after I buried my husband, to the moment I realized my own daughter was planning to take my house. I'm Sharon Vickers, 62 years old. I worked 32 years as a branch manager at the Chicago Public Library before I retired in 2020. My husband Raymond was a Chicago firefighter for 35 years. We'd been married 41 years when he died of a massive heart attack in August 2021. He was 63 years old, dropped dead at the fire station on a Tuesday morning. 1 minute he was there, laughing with his crew. The next, gone. The grief nearly destroyed me. We'd just paid off our house in Chatham 3 years before he died. We were planning to travel, see the world together, Jamaica, Ghana, places we'd always dreamed about. Then he was gone, and I was alone in a 3-bedroom house with nothing but memories and silence. That's why I said yes when my daughter Monique asked if she and her family could move in temporarily. It was May 2022. 9 months after Raymond died, she said they were struggling. Her husband Brandon had taken a pay cut. Childcare for the twins was expensive. They just needed a few months to get back on their feet. I believed her. I wanted to help, and honestly, I was lonely. The house felt too big, too empty without Raymond. Having Monique and Brandon and my grandchildren there, 8-year-old twins Aiden and Aria, it filled the silence, made me feel needed again. That was 2.5 years ago. They were still here. Christmas Eve 2024. The dining room glowed with candlelight. I'd spent all afternoon cooking. Turkey, dressing, collard greens, mac and cheese, sweet potato pie. Raymond's favorite meal. I made it every Christmas, even though he wasn't here to eat it anymore. Monique had invited her friend Martha and Martha's husband over for dinner. She'd also invited Brandon's boss from the dealership and his wife. 8 people around my dining room table, in my house, eating food I'd cooked, but somehow I felt like a guest. "Sharon, could you pass the wine?" Brandon said from the head of the table. The head of my table. In my house. I passed the bottle, watching as he poured freely. Expensive wine, $70 a bottle. I'd bought it because Monique said Brandon's boss appreciated good wine. "This turkey is amazing," Martha said. "Monique, you outdid yourself." Monique smiled, accepting the compliment without correcting her friend that I'd cooked everything, that I'd spent 6 hours in the kitchen while she'd gotten her nails done, and Brandon had watched football. "We love hosting Christmas," Monique said, gesturing around the room. "It's important to us to create traditions for the kids." We, us. Our traditions. In the house Raymond and I had bought 32 years ago, the house we'd painted together, the garden Raymond had planted, the back porch where we'd spent summer evenings talking about our future. But I said nothing, just took another sip of wine and watched my daughter play hostess in my home. "Sharon's been so generous letting us stay here," Brandon said to his boss. "Not Sharon's been kind to open her home, just a statement of fact, like commenting on the weather." "Family helps family," I said quietly. "Exactly," Brandon replied, raising his glass. "Family takes care of each other." The conversation moved on. Brandon's boss talked about sales numbers. Martha discussed her upcoming vacation. Everyone laughed and drank and seemed to be having a wonderful time. I excused myself to get more ice from the kitchen. As I walked down the hallway, I could hear my phone buzzing on the counter. I'd left it there while cooking. But then I heard another voice, Monique's voice, coming from the kitchen. She was on her phone, talking in that hushed tone people use when they don't want to be overheard. I paused in the hallway, just out of sight. "Girl, I know," Monique was saying. "We've been here 2.5 years. I'm so tired of it. Living with your mother-in-law is exhausting. She's always here, always watching, always making little comments." My chest tightened. "But Brandon says we're close. He's been working on her about the deed. You know, for estate planning purposes. Getting my name added." She almost agreed last month, but then backed out at the last minute. I pressed my hand against the wall, steadying myself. Once we get the deed changed, we can figure out next steps. Maybe she'd be happier in a smaller place. You know, one of those senior apartments. Something easier for her to maintain. Then this house would really be ours. 3 bedrooms, finished basement. Good neighborhood. We could finally stop renting and actually own something. The kitchen tiles suddenly felt unsteady beneath my feet. "Yeah, I know it sounds bad," Monique continued. "But girl, we've been paying our dues, taking care of her, making sure she's not lonely. She should want to help us. We're her family. And it's not like she needs all this space. She's 62 years old living alone in a 3-bedroom house. That's just wasteful." I stood in that hallway listening to my daughter plot to take my home. The home Raymond and I had built our life in. The home we'd worked 30 years to pay off. The home I'd opened to her out of love and grief and loneliness. And she thought I owed her. Thought I should be grateful to give her my house and move to some senior apartment so she and Brandon could have what we'd earned. I walked into the kitchen. Monique turned, phone still to her ear. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "I gotta go," she said quickly, disconnecting. "Mom, I didn't hear you come in." "Obviously." I walked to the refrigerator, pulled out the ice tray with steady hands. "Your friends seem to be having a nice time." "Yeah, dinner's going well. Thanks for cooking. You really didn't have to go to all that trouble." "It's Christmas. It's what I do." "Well, we appreciate it. Brandon's boss is really impressed. This could be good for his career." I filled the ice bucket slowly, not looking at her. "Monique, about that meeting with the notary next week. The one about adding your name to the deed." She went very still. "What about it?" "I've been thinking about it, and I've decided I'm not going." Monique's face went pale. "What? Why not?" "Mom, we talked about this. It's just for estate planning, to make things easier when, you know, eventually." "When I die," I said flatly. "You can say it. That's not what I meant. It's just smart planning, making sure everything transfers smoothly. My name on the deed doesn't change anything. You still live here. It's still your house. Until it's not." I turned to face her fully. "Until it becomes your house, and I need to figure out where to go." Her face flushed. "You heard me on the phone. Every word." "Mom, it's not what it sounded like. I was just venting to a friend. You know how it is. Sometimes you say things you don't mean when you're frustrated. You sounded pretty clear to me. This house would really be yours. I'd be happier in a smaller place, a senior apartment. I was just talking. Hypothetically. It doesn't mean anything. It means you've been planning to take my house. The house your father and I worked 30 years to pay off. The house where I raised you. The house where every room has memories of Raymond. And you think I should just hand it over and move into some senior apartment so you and Brandon can finally own something? That's not fair. You're twisting my words." "I'm repeating your words." Monique's eyes filled with tears, the same tears she'd used since she was 5 years old to get out of trouble. "Mom, we've been struggling, really struggling. Brandon's salary got cut. Childcare costs are killing us. We're drowning in bills. We just need help. So I've helped. For 2.5 years, I've helped. You live here rent-free. I pay the property taxes, the utilities, the groceries. You know how much I've spent supporting you? We didn't ask you to pay for everything. You didn't ask. You just expected. You moved in temporarily and made yourself permanent. You stopped offering to contribute. You started treating this place like it's yours. Brandon sits at the head of my table. You tell people you're hosting dinner. You invite guests without asking me. And now I find out you're planning to steal my house. It's not stealing if I'm your daughter. It's inheritance. Inheritance happens after I'm dead, Monique, not while I'm still living in the damn house. She flinched at my language. I never cursed. Raymond used to joke that 32 years working in a library had made me proper. But I was done being proper. We should get back to dinner, Monique said, wiping her eyes. The guests are waiting. The guests you invited to my house without asking permission. You never said we couldn't have people over. Because I thought this was temporary. I thought you were guests in my home. Guests don't invite other guests. Guests don't make plans to steal the house from under their host. Mom, please, can we talk about this later? After everyone leaves? No, we're going to talk about it now. I set down the ice bucket. The property taxes are due next week, December 31st, $7,200. I've paid them every year since your father and I bought this house. I was planning to pay them again. But if this is your house, like you told your friend, then you pay them. We don't have $7,200. Then it's not your house, is it? Mom, you're being unfair. We can't just come up with that kind of money in a week. But you expect me to come up with it? While you're planning to take my house? I wasn't. It's not like that. Then explain it to me. Explain how it's not like that. Brandon appeared in the kitchen doorway. Everything okay in here? You've been gone a while. Everything's fine, Monique said quickly. No, everything's not fine, I said. Brandon, did you know about the plan to get my name added to the deed? To get this house transferred to Monique? He shifted uncomfortably. Sharon, it's just estate planning. It's smart to have these things in place. For when I die. Well, eventually, yes. But also, it protects the asset, keeps it in the family, avoids probate, and makes it easier for you to move me out and take over. Nobody said anything about moving you out. Monique did. On the phone just now, talking about senior apartments, about how I don't need this much space. Brandon shot Monique a look. She stared at the floor. That was taken out of context, he said. Was it? Because it sounded pretty clear to me. You've been living here for 2.5 years, rent-free. I've been paying for everything, and you've been planning to take my house. We've been contributing, Brandon said defensively. We help around here. Monique cooks sometimes. I handle repairs. You cooked twice in 2 years. And what repairs? The garbage disposal I had to call a plumber for? The leaky faucet I fixed myself? We have kids. We're busy. And I'm retired and alone, so I should be grateful for your company? Is that it? I should be happy to support your family and then hand over my house because you've graced me with your presence. Mom, please. Monique's voice was desperate now. The guests can probably hear us. Good. Let them hear. Let Brandon's boss hear how you've been using me. Let Martha hear how you're planning to steal from your own mother. It's not stealing, Brandon said, his voice hardening. This is family business. We're trying to secure our children's future, your grandchildren's future. Don't you want what's best for them? Don't you dare use those children to manipulate me. I love Aiden and Arya, but loving my grandchildren doesn't mean I have to let their parents rob me. Rob you? Jesus, Sharon, that's dramatic. We're talking about keeping assets in the family. While I'm still alive and living here, that's not estate planning. That's theft. The kitchen fell silent. From the dining room, I could hear awkward conversation resuming. The guests had definitely heard something. "The property taxes are due next week," I said again. "If you want this to be your house, you pay for it. If you can't pay for it, then you're guests in my home. And guests who plot to steal from their host aren't welcome anymore. Are you kicking us out?" Monique's voice rose in panic. "I'm telling you that things are going to change, starting now." I walked back into the dining room. Martha and her husband were pretending to be fascinated by the wine labels. Brandon's boss and his wife looked uncomfortable, clearly having heard raised voices from the kitchen. "I apologize for the disruption," I said calmly. "Please, continue enjoying your dinner." Monique and Brandon followed me out, both looking shaken. They took their seats, but the energy at the table had completely shifted. Conversation limped along for another 20 minutes before the guests made polite excuses and left early. After everyone was gone, I started clearing dishes. Monique stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You embarrassed us in front of Brandon's boss. He might lose his promotion over this." "I embarrassed you? You've been plotting to steal my house, and I embarrassed you?" "We weren't stealing. We were planning for the future. My future, in my house, without asking me." Brandon came in, his face tight with anger. "Sharon, we need to talk about this rationally." "I'm being completely rational. You've been living here rent-free for 2.5 years. That's $2,200 a month you should have been paying. That's $66,000 in rent alone, plus the property taxes I've covered. The utilities that tripled when 4 people moved in. The groceries, the internet upgrades you demanded. You know how much you've cost me? We're family. Family doesn't charge rent. Family also doesn't plot to steal the house." "We weren't stealing," he said again, but his voice lacked conviction. "Then what was that meeting with the notary about? The one scheduled for next week that Monique mentioned on the phone?" Silence. "That's what I thought." I set down the plate I was holding. "I'm going to bed. Tomorrow morning, we're going to sit down and discuss how this arrangement is going to change." "Mom, wait," Monique started. "I'm done talking tonight. I'm tired. I'm angry. And I need to think." I went upstairs to my bedroom, the master bedroom that Raymond and I had shared for 32 years, the room where he died in my arms, his heart giving out while we slept. The room where I'd cried for months afterward, wondering how to live without him. I sat on the edge of the bed and let myself cry. Not for the money, not even for the betrayal, but for the realization that I'd been so lonely, so desperate for family, that I'd let them use me. I'd confused being needed with being loved. Raymond would have seen through it. He'd always been better at reading people. I'd been too close, too trusting, too willing to believe that my daughter's struggles were genuine rather than manufactured excuses. I opened the drawer of my nightstand and pulled out the folder I kept there, bank statements, the ones I'd been reviewing for weeks, wondering why my savings were disappearing faster than they should. I'd been meaning to sit down and calculate exactly how much I'd spent supporting Monique and Brandon. Now seemed like a good time. I spread the statements across the bed and started adding. Property taxes, $14,400 over 2 years. Utilities, $9,600 more than I'd paid when I lived alone. Groceries, at least $14,400, probably more. The $25,000 I'd given them as a down payment gift that they'd never used to actually buy a house. The $8,500 emergency loan for Brandon's car repair that was never repaid. The car insurance, the streaming services, the kids' activities, the Christmas gifts. On and on it went. By the time I finished, it was past midnight. The total made my stomach turn, $133,480. Over 2 years, I'd paid them $133,480 in direct costs and lost rent. More than Raymond's life insurance. More than a year of my pension. Money I could have used to travel. To renovate the house, to secure my own future. Instead, I'd poured it into supporting two adults who'd been planning to steal my home. I heard footsteps on the stairs, a soft knock on my door. "Mom, are you awake?" Monique's voice. "Come in." She opened the door hesitantly. Her eyes were red from crying. She looked young suddenly, like the little girl who used to crawl into this bed during thunderstorms. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, Mom. You're right. About everything. We took advantage of you. I took advantage of you." "Yes, you did. It started out okay. We really were struggling, and you offered to help. But then it got easy. Too easy. Every time a bill came, you just paid it. Every time we needed something, you just handled it. And somewhere along the way, we stopped being grateful and started being entitled. And started planning to take my house." She sat down on the edge of the bed, careful to keep distance between us. "Brandon's been pushing for that for months. At first, I said no. But he kept saying it made sense. That you didn't need all this space. That we needed stability for the kids. That you'd understand. And I wanted to believe him because, God, Mom, I'm so tired of struggling. So you decided to stop struggling by stealing from me." I didn't think of it that way. I thought of it as, I don't know, advancing my inheritance. While I'm still alive, while I'm still living here, I know how wrong it is. I didn't let myself think about it clearly, because if I did, I'd have to admit what we were doing. I looked at my daughter, at this woman I'd raised to be honest and kind and independent. Somewhere, I'd failed her. Or maybe I'd succeeded too well at making things easy, and she'd never learned to struggle. "Monique, do you know how much I've spent supporting you over the past 2 years?" "I don't know. A lot, I guess." $13,380 Her face went white. That can't be right. I just calculated it. Every payment, every expense, every gift. It's all there. I gestured to the statement spread across the bed. "You've cost me more than your father's life insurance. More than a year of my income. And you were planning to take my house on top of it. Oh my God." She put her head in her hands. "Mom, I didn't realize. I swear I didn't realize it was that much. Because you never asked. You never looked at the bills. You just let me pay and pay and pay. And when I started running low, instead of cutting back, you planned to take the house. What do we do now? That's the question, isn't it?" The next morning, Christmas Day, I woke up early. The house was quiet. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Raymond and I used to have breakfast together every morning for 32 years. I heard footsteps on the stairs around 8. Brandon appeared first, looking wary. Then Monique, still in her robe. The twins stayed upstairs, probably sensing the tension. "Sit down," I said. "We need to talk." Saturday, Brandon wouldn't meet my eyes. "I've been thinking all night," I began. "About how we got here, about what needs to happen next." "Mom, I'm so sorry," Monique started. "Let me finish." My voice was calm but firm. "You moved in here 2.5 years ago. You said it was temporary. You said you needed a few months to get back on your feet. I believed you because I loved you, and I was lonely and I wanted to help." Brandon shifted in his chair. "But it wasn't temporary. You settled in. Made yourselves comfortable, stopped even pretending you were looking for your own place. And I let it happen because having you here filled the silence Raymond left behind." "We were grateful," Monique said quietly. "Were you? Because grateful people don't stop contributing. Grateful people don't start treating their host like staff. Grateful people don't plot to steal their mother's house." "I know. You're right. I calculated the numbers last night. $133,480. That's what you've cost me over 2 years. Rent you didn't pay, bills I covered, gifts I gave, loans you never repaid. Brandon's jaw dropped. That's impossible. It's documented. Bank statements, receipts, every penny I spent supporting you while you planned to take my home. We never meant for it to get this bad, he said. But it did, and now we're here. Christmas morning, sitting at my table, deciding what happens next. Are you kicking us out? Monique's voice trembled. I should. God knows you deserve it. But I'm going to give you a choice instead. They both looked up. The property taxes are due December 31st. 1 week from today, $7,200. You have 1 week to come up with that money. If you pay it, you can stay. If you can't pay it, you have 60 days to find somewhere else to live. 60 days? Brandon stood up. That's not enough time. We have kids. We can't just find a place in 60 days. You've had 2.5 years to find a place. You chose not to. 60 days is more than generous considering you were planning to steal my house. We can't come up with $7,200 in a week, Monique said. Mom, you know we don't have that kind of money. Then you don't really want this house, do you? Because houses cost money. Property taxes, maintenance, insurance, repairs. If you can't afford $7,200, you can't afford to own a house, which means you've been planning to take mine while I still pay for everything. That's not fair. What's not fair is plotting to take my house while I'm still living in it. What's not fair is costing me $133,000 while planning to push me into a senior apartment. What's not fair is using your children to manipulate me. Brandon sat back down, his face red. So that's it? Pay up or get out? That's it. What about family? What about helping each other? Family goes both ways, Brandon. I've been helping you for 2.5 years. You've been taking. There's a difference. Monique was crying now. Mom, we made a mistake. We got in over our heads. We let things go too far. But we're still your family. Aiden and Arya are your grandchildren. You'd really put us out? I'd really stop letting you use me. If you want to stay, prove it. Pay the property taxes. Start contributing to utilities. Pay rent. Act like adults instead of entitled children. We can't afford all that. Then you can't afford to live here. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. You're both employed. You make decent money. You can find an apartment like everyone else. But the kids, their school, their friends, should have thought about that before you planned to steal from me. Brandon stood up again, his chair scraping loudly. This is bullshit. We've been here for you. Keeping you company, making sure you weren't alone. You think we wanted to live with my mother-in-law? We did it for you. I laughed. Actually laughed. You did it for me? Is that what you tell yourself? You moved in because you couldn't afford rent. You stayed because I paid for everything. You planned to take my house because you're greedy. Don't pretend this was charity. I'm not going to sit here and be insulted in my own home. This isn't your home. It's mine. The deed is in my name. The mortgage I paid for 30 years. The property taxes I've paid for 32 years. Mine, not yours. And it's time you remembered that. Unbelievable. He looked at Monique. Are you going to let her talk to me like this? She's right, Brandon. Monique's voice was small. We used her. We know we did. Jesus Christ. He walked out of the kitchen. I heard him stomping up the stairs. Monique stayed at the table, wiping her eyes. What do we do, Mom? You figure it out. Like adults. You find an apartment you can afford. You budget. You cut back on expenses. You live within your means instead of expecting me to subsidize you. What if we can't? You can. You just don't want to. There's a difference. I don't know how to fix this. Start by being honest. With yourself, with Brandon, with me. Stop pretending you can't afford things. You can. You just want to afford more than you're able to. And you thought I'd be the one to make it possible. Will you ever forgive me? I looked at my daughter. At this woman I'd raised and loved and apparently enabled into entitlement. I don't know. Maybe. Eventually. But right now, I need you to respect my boundaries. I need you to understand that being my daughter doesn't entitle you to my house or my money. Okay. She stood up slowly. The property taxes. We can't pay them by next week. Then you have 60 days to move out. Okay, she said again. I understand. After she left, I sat alone in my kitchen. The coffee had gone cold. Through the window, I could see Raymond's rose bushes, dormant now in winter but ready to bloom again in spring. I'd planted new ones last year, red roses, Raymond's favorite, a memorial garden I tended alone. Soon I'd be tending this whole house alone again, and maybe that was for the best. December 31st came and went. No property tax payment from Monique and Brandon. I paid it myself, as I'd known I would. But something had shifted in the house. The pretense was gone. Monique and Brandon started looking at apartments. I'd see them on their laptops at night, scrolling through listings with grim expressions. Everything in their budget was smaller, farther from the kids' school, in neighborhoods they considered beneath them. There's a 2-bedroom in Roseland for $1,400, I heard Monique tell Brandon one evening. It's close to the red line. Roseland? That's a downgrade from here. And 2 bedrooms? Where do the kids sleep? They share, like normal kids. Our kids aren't used to sharing. Then they'll learn. I listened from my bedroom, feeling a complex mixture of satisfaction and sadness. They were finally facing reality, but it was painful to watch. On January 3rd, I called my attorney, David Johnson. He'd handled Raymond's estate after he died. I trusted him. Sharon, good to hear from you. How was your Christmas? Illuminating. David, I need to talk to you about protecting my assets. What's going on? I told him everything. Monique and Brandon living with me. The $133,000 in expenses. The planned deed transfer. The property tax ultimatum. Jesus, he said when I finished. They were really going to try to get on the deed? They had an appointment with a notary scheduled for December 28th. I canceled it after I overheard Monique's phone call. Sharon, do you know what would have happened if you'd signed that? Tell me. Once Monique's name was on the deed as joint owner, they could have forced you out, made your life miserable until you agreed to leave, or they could have waited for you to die and then claimed full ownership. Either way, you'd have lost your house. My hands tightened on the phone. That's what I thought, but hearing you confirm it makes it real. Have they moved out yet? I gave them 60 days. They're looking at apartments but dragging their feet. Sharon, I need to tell you something. As your attorney, I strongly recommend you give them formal written notice, not just a verbal ultimatum, a legal 60-day notice to vacate. Will that hold up if they fight it? Illinois law allows homeowners to evict guests who've overstayed. Since they're not paying rent and never had a lease, they're considered guests, not tenants. With proper notice, you can absolutely remove them. Even though they're family? Especially because they're family. Family members who exploit elderly relatives are exactly why these laws exist. Sharon, what they did, planning to steal your house, that's financial elder abuse. You could file charges if you wanted. I don't want to put my daughter in jail, but you want your house back. Yes. Then, let me draft the notice. I'll have it to you by tomorrow. You serve it to them in writing, and the 60-day clock starts officially. If they're not out by the deadline, we file for formal eviction. It's really come to this, I said quietly. They brought it to this. Not you. You were generous. They were greedy. There's a difference. After I hung up, I sat in my living room looking at the family photos on the mantel. Monique as a baby, Monique's first day of school, her high school graduation, her wedding to Brandon 8 years ago. Raymond and me standing proud next to our daughter in her white dress. If Raymond were alive, would this have happened? Would Monique have dared to try this with her father watching? Or had I enabled her in ways he wouldn't have? Raymond had been firmer, more willing to say no. I'd always been the soft one, the one who wanted to make everyone happy. Maybe that was the problem. The next day, David emailed me the notice. I printed it out, my hands shaking slightly as the pages emerged from the printer. 60-day notice to vacate, legal language, cold and formal. A document that turned my daughter into a tenant being evicted from my home. I found Monique in the kitchen making dinner. The twins were doing homework at the table. Brandon was still at work. "Monique, I need to give you something." She turned from the stove, saw the papers in my hand. Her face fell. "Is that what I think it is?" "It's formal notice. 60 days to vacate. My attorney says I need to do this properly." "You got a lawyer involved?" Her voice rose. "Mom, we're your family. You got a lawyer?" "You were planning to steal my house." "Yes, I got a lawyer." Aiden and Aria looked up from their homework, sensing the tension. "Can we not do this in front of the kids?" "Then take the notice and read it later, but I'm serving it to you now. The 60 days starts today, January 4th. You need to be out by March 5th. She took the papers like they might burn her. "We're looking for places. You know we're looking. I know you're looking at places you think are beneath you, while you live rent-free in my house. That's not fair." "Aiden, Aria, go upstairs, please," I said to my grandchildren. They scrambled up quickly, grateful to escape the tension. Once they were gone, Monique's composure cracked. "You're really doing this. You're really kicking us out." "I'm enforcing boundaries. Something I should have done 2 years ago. We'll be out by March. You don't need to serve me legal papers like I'm some criminal. The papers make it official. They protect both of us. If you're out by March 5th, we never have to mention them again. If you're not, I have legal recourse." "You'd really take us to court? Your own daughter? You'd really steal my house? Your own mother?" She flinched. I said I was sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back $133,000. Sorry doesn't undo 2.5 years of exploitation. Sorry is just a word, Monique. Actions matter. And your actions showed me exactly what you think of me. So that's it? We're just done? No more relationship? We have 60 days to figure out what our relationship looks like after this. But right now, you're my tenants being evicted for cause. Family comes after that. Brandon came home an hour later. I heard Monique showing him the notice, heard his angry voice. She actually served us? Like we're strangers? She has a lawyer, Brandon. A lawyer. This is insane. We should fight this. On what grounds? It's her house. We're not paying rent. We don't have a lease. What are we going to fight with? We'll tell people what she did. How she kicked out her own daughter and grandchildren. Make her look like the bad guy. We are the bad guys, Monique said. We tried to steal her house. How do you not see that? We were helping her with estate planning. Stop lying. Please, just stop lying. We got caught. We have to move. That's it. I heard something break. A dish or glass. Brandon swearing. Fine, we'll move. But I'm never forgiving her for this. Never. Good. I whispered to myself in my bedroom. I can live with that. January turned into February. The tension in the house was unbearable. Brandon barely spoke to me. When he did, his voice dripped with resentment. Monique tried to maintain some semblance of civility, but it was strained. The twins sensed something was wrong. Aria asked me one afternoon while we were alone, "Grandma, are you mad at Mommy and Daddy?" I knelt down to her level. "Sweetheart, sometimes grown-ups have disagreements. But I love you, and your brother. That never changes. But we're moving away." "Yes, you are. But you can still visit me. Daddy says we won't be visiting anymore." That hurt more than I expected. "We'll see about that, baby." Monique and Brandon finally found an apartment. A 2-bedroom in Auburn Gresham for $1,400. $450 a month. It was half the size of my house. One bathroom instead of two. No yard for the kids. No finished basement. A 20-minute longer commute to Brandon's dealership. But it was what they could afford. "We're signing the lease tomorrow," Monique told me in mid-February. "We'll be out by the end of the month, earlier than your deadline." "Good. That's good." The kids are upset. Aria's been crying about leaving her room. "They'll adjust." "Will they?" She looked at me with something that might have been accusation. "Or will they remember that their grandmother kicked them out?" "They'll remember that their parents tried to steal from their grandmother. Or they won't remember any of this because they're 8 years old and resilient." "Either way, Monique, their situation is your responsibility, not mine." "I know." She looked down. "I know it is, but it doesn't make it easier." "No, I imagine it doesn't." The week before they moved, I called David again. "They found a place," I told him. "They're moving out by the end of February." "That's good news. How are you feeling about it?" "Relieved, guilty, sad, angry, all of it at once." "That's normal. You're setting boundaries with family. It's never easy." "David, I need to ask you something. The $133,000 they cost me. Is there any way to get that back?" He was quiet for a moment. "Legally, you could sue for repayment. But Sharon, litigation is expensive and time-consuming. And collecting a judgment from someone who can barely afford rent is nearly impossible. So I just lose it. You could consider it an expensive lesson. Or you could require repayment as a condition of maintaining a relationship with them. They'd never agree to that. Then maybe the relationship isn't worth maintaining." After I hung up, I did something I'd been avoiding for months. I went into the basement and opened the boxes of Raymond's things. His firefighter uniforms, his awards, photos from his years at Engine 49. I found the letter he'd written me years ago, tucked into his retirement shadow box. He'd given it to me on our 35th anniversary. "My dearest Sharon," it read, "if you're reading this after I'm gone, I want you to know something. You're stronger than you think. You have a soft heart, and that's one of the reasons I love you. But don't let people mistake kindness for weakness, not even family, especially not family. Protect yourself. Be happy. Don't let guilt or obligation make you small. I love you forever. Raymond." I sat on the basement floor crying, holding that letter. He'd known. Somehow he'd known I'd need this reminder. The moving truck came on February 28th. I watched from my bedroom window as Monique and Brandon loaded their furniture. The twins helped carry small boxes, their faces solemn. Monique came to find me before they left. "Mom, I just wanted to say, I don't know if we'll talk much after this." Brandon's pretty angry, and honestly, I'm ashamed. But I want you to know I do understand what we did was wrong. Do you? Or do you just understand you got caught? She winced. "That's fair. I deserve that. But Mom, I really am sorry. Not just because we have to leave, but because I hurt you. Because I betrayed your trust. Because I let Brandon convince me that what we were doing was okay. Brandon didn't force you. You made choices. I know. I'm not blaming him. But I am saying I made terrible choices because I was desperate and entitled, and I stopped seeing you as my mother and started seeing you as a resource. At least you can admit it. For whatever that's worth." She hesitated. "Can I hug you?" I let her hug me. It felt awkward, stiff, not like the hugs we used to share, but it was something. "Take care of yourself, Mom. You too. Take care of those children." "I will. And Mom, thank you. For giving us time to find a place. For not making this even harder than it had to be. I'm not a monster, Monique. I'm just a woman who got tired of being used." After they left, the house was silent. Completely silent. No children's footsteps overhead. No television blaring in the basement. No voices arguing about what to have for dinner. Just silence. I walked through the rooms they'd occupied. Monique and Brandon's bedroom, now empty except for some scratches on the hardwood floor where they'd moved furniture without pads. The twins' room, littered with broken crayons and sticker residue on the walls. The basement where Brandon had set up his man cave with a TV and recliner I'd bought. All gone now. My house again, empty and mine. I should have felt triumphant, victorious. I'd set boundaries, reclaimed my space, stood up for myself. Instead, I just felt tired. That night, I called my friend Martha from church, the same Martha who'd been at that Christmas dinner. "Sharon, how are you? I heard Monique moved out." She did. Today, actually. "How are you feeling?" "Honestly, I don't know. Relieved but sad. Free but lonely. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense. You did the right thing, Sharon. What they were doing to you, that wasn't right." "I know, but it still hurts." "Of course it does. She's your daughter." "But honey, she was stealing from you. You had to protect yourself." I just keep thinking about Raymond, wondering what he'd say. He'd say he was proud of you. For being strong. For not letting them take advantage. "You think so?" "I know so. Raymond loved you. He wouldn't want you being used, even by your own daughter." After I hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat in my living room, looked at the family photos still on the mantel. I should probably take down the ones with Monique and Brandon, start fresh, but I wasn't ready yet. Maybe someday. But not today. Today, I just sat in the silence of my reclaimed home and tried to figure out what came next. March arrived with cold rain and the stark reality of living alone again. The house felt enormous. Every creak and groan seemed amplified in the silence. I'd wanted them gone, and now they were. But I hadn't anticipated how loud the quiet would be. I threw myself into projects, repainting the twins' former bedroom, ripping up the stained carpet in the basement and installing new flooring, fixing the scratched hardwood in Monique's old room. Each repair erased evidence of them, but it also cost money. Money they should have been paying to fix the damage they'd caused. The repairs cost $8,000. I paid it out of what remained of Raymond's life insurance money, money I'd intended to use for travel. For the trip to Ghana we'd always planned. Now it was going toward undoing the damage my daughter's family had left behind. Martha from church started checking on me regularly. She'd call every few days, sometimes stop by with dinner. "You're doing too much alone," she said one evening in late March, finding me on my hands and knees scrubbing the basement floor. "You need to rest, Sharon. You've been through a trauma." "I need to stay busy. If I stop moving, I start thinking." "Thinking isn't bad. It is when all I think about is how my own daughter tried to steal my house." Martha sat down on the stairs. "Have you heard from her?" "A few texts, mostly about the twins. Aria got an A on a spelling test. Aiden made the basketball team. Surface things, nothing real." "Do you want real?" "I don't know what I want." Part of me misses her. Misses the daughter I thought I had. The other part is so angry I can barely breathe when I think about what she did. Both things can be true. I know, but it doesn't make it easier. In April, I made a decision. I called David and asked him to help me update my will. "What changes do you want to make?" he asked. "Everything goes to charity. The house. My retirement accounts, whatever's left. I want it to go to organizations that help elderly people who've been financially abused by family members." "Sharon, are you sure?" "That's leaving nothing to Monique. She already tried to take everything. This just makes it official that she won't get another chance." "What about your grandchildren?" I hesitated. "Can we set up something small for them? Education funds, maybe, that go directly to the school when they're older. Nothing Monique or Brandon can access." "Yes, we can do that. Small trusts that pay directly to educational institutions. They'll get access at 18. "Good, let's do that. $20,000 each for Aiden and Aria. Everything else goes to charity." "Sharon, this is a big decision. Maybe take some time to think about it. I've thought about it for weeks. This is what I want. Monique showed me what she valued. Money and property over her mother. Fine, she won't get any of it. The new will was signed by mid-April. I felt lighter afterward, like I'd finally closed a door that had been hanging open, letting in a cold draft. In May, Monique called. Not texted. Actually called. I almost didn't answer. Mom, do you have a minute? What is it? I wanted to tell you something. Brandon and I are separating. I sat down slowly. What happened? Everything. The move, the financial stress, the guilt about what we did to you. We've been fighting constantly. He blames me for losing the house. I blame him for pushing me to try to take it in the first place. We're done. I'm sorry. Are you? I thought you'd be happy. I'm not happy you're in pain, Monique. I'm angry at what you did. That doesn't mean I enjoy watching your life fall apart. It's my own fault. I know that. Brandon's moving out next month, filing for divorce. The twins are devastated. Where will you go? I'm staying in the apartment. I can afford it on my own if I'm careful. Brandon will pay child support. We'll figure it out. Monique, why are you telling me this? Because you're still my mother, and I don't know who else to talk to. All our friends, they sided with Brandon. Said I was stupid to mess things up with you, that we had it good and I ruined it. You did have it good. You did ruin it. I know. But Mom, I need you to understand something. I'm not calling to ask for money or help or anything. I miss you. I miss being able to talk to you. I miss having a mother. My throat tightened. You have a mother. You just spent 2 years treating her like an ATM. I know, and I'm sorry. I've said I'm sorry so many times it doesn't even sound like a real word anymore. But Mom, I really am. I'm so deeply sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, Monique. I know. But maybe time can? Maybe if I prove to you that I've changed, that I've learned, maybe someday we can have a relationship again? Maybe, someday, but not now. I understand. Can I ask one thing? What? Can the twins still see you? They miss you so much. Aria cries about you at night. They didn't do anything wrong. They shouldn't be punished for what I did. I closed my eyes, thinking about my grandchildren, 8 years old, innocent in all of this, missing their grandmother. Bring them by next Saturday. For lunch. Just the 3 of you. Brandon doesn't come. Really? Mom, thank you. Thank you so much. This doesn't mean we're okay, Monique. This means I miss my grandchildren, and they shouldn't suffer for your mistakes. I know. I understand. We'll be there Saturday. Thank you, Mom. After I hung up, I sat in Raymond's chair by the window. The roses in the garden were blooming, red and beautiful, just like he'd planted them. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, I said to him, to his memory, to the empty room, letting them come back, even just for lunch. Am I being weak, or am I being a grandmother? The roses swayed in the breeze, no answers, just beauty and silence. Saturday came. I made lunch, fried chicken, mac and cheese, the things the twins loved. I set the table with my good dishes, put out fresh flowers. When the doorbell rang at noon, my heart pounded. I opened the door to find Aiden and Aria, both dressed nicely, holding a drawing they'd made. Grandma! Aria threw herself at me. Aiden followed, wrapping his arms around my waist. We missed you so much, Aria said into my shoulder. I missed you too, babies, so much. Monique stood on the porch, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, she mouthed. I nodded, didn't invite her in for lunch. This was for the children, not for her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But for today, I had my grandchildren back. And that was enough. The twins came for lunch every other Saturday after that. I'd cook their favorite meals, help them with homework, listen to stories about school. Monique would drop them off and pick them up. We'd exchange brief pleasantries at the door, but nothing more. It was strange, having pieces of my family back but not the whole, like trying to put together a puzzle with half the pieces missing. But it was better than the complete silence that had filled the months before. In June, I did something I'd been putting off. I booked a trip, not to Ghana. That had been Raymond's dream, and going without him felt wrong, but to Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian museums, the monuments, the history. I'd always wanted to see the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Raymond and I had talked about going, but we'd kept putting it off, waiting for the right time. A time that never came. I went alone, 5 days in August, stayed in a modest hotel, walked the National Mall, stood in front of the Lincoln Memorial, visited the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. In the museum, I found myself crying in front of an exhibit about migration from the South. My grandparents had made that journey, from Mississippi to Chicago in the 1,940 seconds, looking for better lives. They'd worked hard, saved money, bought a small house. My grandmother had told me once, property is freedom. Sharon, they can take a lot from you, but if you own your land, you own a piece of yourself. I thought about Monique trying to take my house, about how close I'd come to signing that deed, about what my grandmother would have said if she'd known. She'd have been furious, and proud that I'd fought back. When I returned home, I felt different, lighter, like I'd shed a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying. The trip had cost $3,000, money Monique would have said I was wasting, money Brandon would have thought should go to them. But it was my money, my choice, my life. In September, Martha invited me to join a widow's support group at church. I'd been resisting for months, not wanting to sit in a circle and talk about grief, but I finally agreed. There were 6 other women, all of us in our 60s or 70s. All of us navigating life after losing our husbands. Some had been widowed for decades. Others, like me, were still learning how to be alone. We met every Wednesday evening, drank coffee, shared stories, cried sometimes, laughed more than I expected. One woman, Patricia, had a story that resonated. Her son had borrowed $50,000 from her after her husband died, promised to pay it back, never did. She'd finally cut him off 2 years ago. "Do you regret it?" I asked her one evening. "Not for a second. I regret lending him the money in the first place, but cutting him off? That saved me. He was bleeding me dry financially and emotionally. Sometimes love means saying no." "Do you talk to him now?" "Occasionally. On holidays. It's civil, but distant. And honestly, that's enough. I don't need my son to complete me. I have my own life." Her words stayed with me. I don't need my son to complete me. Or in my case, my daughter. I could love Monique from a distance, could be a grandmother to her children, without letting her close enough to hurt me again. In October, Monique asked if we could talk. Really talk, not just brief exchanges at the door. We sat on my back porch, the same porch where Raymond and I used to drink coffee every morning. The roses were fading now, preparing for winter. "Mom, I need to tell you something. I've been in therapy since April, trying to understand why I did what I did, why I let things get so out of control." "And what did you learn?" "That I've been entitled my whole life. That you and Dad made things too easy for me. And when I faced real struggle for the first time with Brandon's pay cut, I didn't know how to handle it. So I looked for the easiest solution, which was taking from you. So this is my fault? For raising you too well? No. That came out wrong. It's my fault for not learning to struggle, for not learning that hard work and sacrifice are part of life. You tried to teach me. I just didn't listen." "No, you didn't." The therapist asked me something that stuck with me. She asked if I'd have tried to take the house if Dad were still alive, and I realized the answer was no. I wouldn't have dared. Because Dad would have called me out immediately. Yes, he would have. But you're softer, kinder. And I took advantage of that. I mistook your kindness for weakness, and I'm ashamed of that. You should be. I know I can't fix what I did. I know I can't give you back the money, or the time, or the trust. But Mom, I want you to know that I'm trying to be better. For me, for my kids. And someday, maybe, for you. Monique, I changed my will. Everything goes to charity. The house, my retirement accounts, all of it. You get nothing. Her face went pale. Oh, there are small education trusts for Aiden and Aria, $20,000 each. But that's it. You showed me what you valued, so I made sure you won't get another chance to take it. I understand. I deserve that. Yes, you do. Does that mean we'll never have a real relationship again? I looked at my daughter, at this woman I'd raised and loved and ultimately had to protect myself from. I don't know. Right now, I can be the twins' grandmother. I can be civil to you at the door, but real relationship, trust, that's gone, Monique. You killed it. Can it be rebuilt? Maybe. Over years, if you prove you've actually changed. But right now, no. Right now, I'm protecting myself. The way I should have done 3 years ago. Okay. She stood up. Thank you for being honest. And thank you for letting me see the kids. That means more than you know. After she left, I sat on the porch as the sun set. The air was getting cold. Soon I'd have to bring in Raymond's roses, protect them for winter. Just like I was protecting myself, building boundaries, guarding what was mine. It wasn't the family I'd imagined, but it was honest. And after 3 years of being used, honesty felt like enough. December 2025. 1 year after that Christmas dinner, when I'd overheard Monique's phone call. 1 year since everything changed. I woke up on Christmas morning alone. For the first time in 3 years, there were no children running down the stairs, no voices filling the house, just me and the silence. But this silence felt different. Not lonely, peaceful. I made coffee. Sat in Raymond's chair by the window. Looked out at the garden covered in snow. The roses were dormant, sleeping through winter, but they'd bloom again in spring. They always did. My phone buzzed. A text from Monique. Merry Christmas, Mom. The kids wanted me to tell you they miss you. We're spending today with Brandon's parents, but maybe we could come by tomorrow, if you're available. I stared at the message for a long time. A year ago, she'd been living in my house, plotting to steal it. Now she was asking permission to visit. Tomorrow at 2, I typed back. Just you and the kids. Bring their gifts here. I have something for them. 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then, thank you. We'll be there. I'd bought gifts for Aiden and Aria weeks ago. Books, art supplies, things that encouraged learning and creativity, not expensive electronics or trendy toys, things Raymond would have approved of. That afternoon, Martha called. Sharon, some of us from the widows group are having dinner tonight, potluck at Patricia's house. You should come. I don't know. Christmas dinner with strangers? We're not strangers. We're family. The family we chose. And nobody should be alone on Christmas. So, I went. Brought my sweet potato pie. Sat around Patricia's table with 6 other women who'd lost their husbands and rebuilt their lives. We ate. We laughed. We told stories about our late husbands and our complicated children and our journey toward independence. To the women who survived, Patricia said, raising her glass. To the ones who learned to choose themselves. To choosing ourselves, we echoed. I drove home that night feeling full. Not just from the food, from the connection, from being around women who understood, who'd been where I was, who'd made it to the other side. The next day, Monique arrived with the twins at exactly 2 p.m. They burst through the door, all energy and excitement. Grandma! Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, babies. Come see what I got you. We spent the afternoon in the living room. The twins opened their gifts, delighted with everything. Monique sat quietly on the couch, watching. Mom, thank you for this, for letting us be here. They're my grandchildren. I love them. I know, and I'm grateful. After the twins went to play in the backyard, bundled in their winter coats, Monique and I sat in the kitchen. "How are you doing?" I asked. "Really? It's hard. The divorce will be final in February. Money's tight. But I'm managing. I got a promotion at work. Small raise, but it helps. And I'm learning to budget, to live within my means." "That's good. I never learned that before. You and Dad always helped when things got tight. I never had to actually struggle. But now I do. And it's teaching me things I should have learned 20 years ago. Better late than never." "Mom, I want you to know something. I understand why you changed your will. I understand why you don't trust me. And I'm not asking you to change it back. I just want you to know that I'm not doing this. The therapy, the budgeting, the trying to be better, to get back in your good graces. I'm doing it for me. And for my kids." "Good. That's the right reason. Will we ever be okay again?" "Really okay?" "I don't know, Monique. Ask me again in 5 years. She smiled sadly. "That's fair. I can wait 5 years, or 10, or however long it takes." After they left, I sat in my quiet house. It was fully mine again. The repairs were finished. The rooms clean and empty. No one else's belongings cluttering my space. No one else's drama filling my days. I walked through each room, remembering Raymond in the kitchen, cooking his famous chili, Monique as a little girl, playing in what was now the guest room, family dinners at the table, Christmas mornings full of laughter. Those memories were still here, the good ones. They weren't erased by what came after. I stopped in front of the photos on the mantel. I'd removed some, the ones of Monique and Brandon's wedding. The ones from the last few Christmases when they were living here, pretending to be grateful while plotting to take my home. But I'd kept others. Monique as a baby in Raymond's arms, her first day of school, Aiden and Aria as newborns. The good moments. Before greed and entitlement poisoned everything. At 62 years old, I'd learned something Raymond tried to teach me for 41 years. Being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. Loving your family doesn't mean accepting abuse. And sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones you need protection from. I'd lost $133,000, nearly lost my house, damaged my relationship with my daughter, maybe permanently. But I'd gained something more valuable: self-respect, boundaries, the knowledge that I could stand up for myself, even when it hurt, even when it meant being alone. I walked out to the back porch. The sun was setting, painting the winter sky in shades of pink and gold. Raymond's roses slept beneath the snow, waiting for spring. "I did it," I said to him, to his memory, to the cold December air. "I protected what we built. I chose myself, just like you told me to." The wind picked up, rustling through the bare tree branches. It almost sounded like approval. I went back inside, locked the door, my house, my life. And for the first time in 4 years, I felt truly at peace. That is Sharon Vickers' story. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this from? What city? What country? Drop it in the comments below. I love seeing our global community come together over these powerful stories about family exploitation, financial abuse, and the impossible choice between protecting yourself and maintaining relationships. Real question: if you were Sharon, what would you have done? Would you have let Monique and Brandon move in after Raymond died? Would you have served them eviction papers when you discovered their plan? Or would you have tried to work things out to keep the family together? Tell me in the comments. Hit that like button if this story made you feel something. Share it if you know someone whose adult children are taking advantage of them. Someone who's paying their child's bills while being treated like a burden. Someone who's being pressured to sign over property or assets to family members. And subscribe for more raw, real stories about elder financial exploitation, entitled Adult Children: The Cost of Generosity Without Boundaries, and what happens when grief makes you vulnerable to the people who should protect you most. Thanks for watching. Sometimes the people you open your home to are planning to take it from you. Sometimes generosity becomes an expectation. Sometimes your loneliness makes you an easy target for exploitation. And sometimes choosing yourself over family is the only way to survive with your dignity intact. See you in the next video.